Hi, I'm Stephen Day, and today I'm going to talk about epistemology, theories of knowing, and how that runs into my theory of global learning. So epistemology, of course, starts out with what is truth and how do we know it, and this can bring up the question, is truth relative or is it objective? Well, I'm going to say right now that relative truth is a self-defeating proposition. By saying truth is relative, you make an objective statement which therefore invalidates the proposition just by saying it. So maybe I'm doing that too quickly, but it's a short presentation. We're going to start with objective truth. Now, of course, this is an extremely difficult thing. What is the objective truth? This could be a long and interesting conversation, but we're going to go to what I believe, and that is God is the source of truth. He is the unmoved mover. He is the uncaused cause, and he is the uncreated creator of everything. He always was. He reveals himself by special revelation, which I've shown with a book representing Holy Scripture, and natural revelation, which I've shown with the stars representing the created order. And then down here we have us, people. Now we apprehend the truth. Notice I have the arrows going both ways. Truth coming down to us because it's objective, we do not create it, and then arrows going up showing that we have to apprehend it. So we're going to focus on natural revelation today. Now I think that we should use all our faculties that we have to apprehend truth of natural revelation. We use science, we use our senses, we use reason, we use all sorts of faculties that we have as people. Unfortunately, we see, as it were, through a cloud. And this cloud is because it's very difficult to really know anything as it truly is. We're very limited in our knowledge, we're very small, and also we sin. We're self-centered a lot of the time, and this skews our view. It makes things, we can still know truth, but a lot of time we see a blurry truth. And I will say also, while we're talking about belief, what I think is the most important belief is that we can know God personally, directly, through Jesus. Now, let's go on to theories of truth and knowing it. We can go down here to the positivist, which we learn about in our book Cosmopolitanism. Now, Kwame Anthony Appiah shows how the positivists divide into values and beliefs. The beliefs you can know through information. The values are personal. Nobody can speak to anybody else's values. Now, Anthony Appiah says, no, bad idea. One of his main reasons, which I think is interesting, is that values and beliefs are very difficult to extricate. Our values inform our beliefs. Information informs our values. Now, let's not go on to this anymore. Let's go to one that I think is a little bit better, and that's how to get closer to the truth. And by the way, I've got another diagram here. I think that we might not be able to know the truth absolutely again because of the cloud, but we can be close to it or we can be far away from it. So let's look at, given that there is truth out there that we can know, I'm going to talk about belief. How do we come to belief about the truth? Now, it's difficult to know whether we actually are right close to the truth. Of course, everybody thinks that they are. But let's look at how we get beliefs. I believe there are three ways. First of all, things that we believe have to make sense to us. So we have to have an intellectual assent. It's very hard to take a blind leap of faith to something that makes no sense to us whatsoever. However, we can't, like the positivists, would have us believe, just know that some things are facts because they're facts. Truth is way more difficult to apprehend than that. So I think what we do is we scaffold up on the intellectual level. We build up to a place where we can come to a leap of faith. I think that all knowledge, or all belief, involves a leap of faith of some kind. Even belief about scientific propositions, anything like that. Of course, it's not just the intellect that informs us. It's always personal experience. Whether we had good things happen to us, bad things happen to us, there's a lot of individual experience that goes into what we think we know. And then lastly, I think this is interesting, the social aspect. We tend to believe things that we think will make us like people that we like, or people that we want to be like. So I think that we have to take this humble position right off the get-go, that we're not just a bunch of intellectuals who just are always rational and using our brain. However, we also have these other factors that affect us a lot. So let's go on to a little map of what the world might look like from this view of people who are trying to get truth despite these, or using these three tools. Here we have diversity. Notice it's all over the place. There's color. There's all these atoms, and things just seem to be going crazy. The postmodernists would have us believe that these are just all discrete things that we cannot, that really don't really have a lot of relation to each other, because there's no one absolute truth. Of course, as I said earlier, I think that there is an objective truth, and I think that if we were to be able to zoom all the way out, which we can't because we're too small, but if we were able to zoom all the way out, we would see that the world and the universe, the cosmos, knowledge is like a tree, and it might seem very diverse and complicated at the top, but it is all tied together and makes sense by an objective truth. And this is a good thing. It means that we can enjoy the extremely interesting and fun diversity of the universe. We can explore it. We're made to do that, to uncover lots of new and amazing things about creation. And yet what makes it even better is that it can tie together and it can make sense and not just be a bunch of disparate craziness or white noise. Another way to look at this is to see the unified one culture that Clark thinks is going to come into being someday. I don't think that will happen. Or the discrete cultures of Hanvi. We can almost call this a dialectic. The two clash together. Clark versus Hanvi. Now, if we know about dialectic, we know that out of a dialectic, out of the clash of two opposites, springs a synthesis, which we call cosmopolitanism. I think that we can have the unity and the single culture mindset of Clark and love the commonalities of humans, but at the same time appreciate the diversity that Hanvi tells us about. So let's move on to delve deeper into cosmopolitanism and then talk about global learning, then we'll wrap this up, okay? Come along with me. I'm going to start off with a piece of artwork, and this is a picture of Glasgow, Scotland. Great picture of cosmopolitanism. This artwork is made out of a lot of different media. We've got plastic or paper grocery bags, we've got chalk, we've got oil painting, we've got wallpaper, we've got wrapping paper, and we even have a postage stamp of Queen Elizabeth. However, it all forms into a unified whole, which is actually a Glasgow tenement, is what you see right here. And so this really shows, I think, a good picture of cosmopolitanism. It's not the salad bowl or the mosaic where things don't interact with each other. Well, actually, I think with those metaphors, they probably do interact with each other. Cosmopolitanism is diversity with unity at the same time, and the different diverse aspects interact with each other to make a whole, a beautiful whole. Now, let's go back to these ways that we come up with beliefs to talk about cosmopolitanism in learning and in global learning. Now, Cobb reminded us that sometimes we can make the mistake of conflating constructivisms as with a theory of knowing, of epistemology, with a theory of pedagogy. But I think that Cobb, in how people learn, might actually be might be overlooking the interesting thing that, well, our epistemology really does inform our pedagogy. And so people learn, as I've talked about earlier, with their backgrounds, or springing off of their backgrounds, both personal and social, as well as the intellectual. And I think that the constructivist theory is really smart to take that into account. The epistemology of how we learn also informs, the epistemology of how we get truth also informs how we should teach people. I think that in this constructivist notion, we're able to use a lot of the metacognition, have kids think about their thinking, and really help them notice that, maybe some of their presuppositions aren't right, or help them get new knowledge based off their presuppositions. We can both critique the presuppositions or we can use them as a springboard. The constructivist teacher would do well to keep those things in mind at the same time. And of course, that does encourage the metacognition, the thinking about the thinking. So important both for understanding truth, but also for being smarter. That's just a good way to learn. It's a higher order thinking skill. I think that they also make a big deal in how people learn about fluent access to knowledge. And I really like that they talk about that. But what's funny here is when we were doing this assignment, and I saw that I had to go back to how people learn, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I don't remember stuff from that already. And then it occurred to me, maybe that's why Dr. Lee is making us go back to this, because it'll help us more fluently access our knowledge. We're not going to forget it. And so without trying to kiss up too much, I think that's a good idea. It's a smart idea for teaching. Constantly use the things that you learned earlier in the course, harken back to them so that the students don't forget them, so they can get a more fluent access of knowledge, access to knowledge that Cobb writes about in how people learn. I think one way that I'd like to go with this in my own field, that is economic education, and that's getting people thinking about the economic way of thinking more. I'd like to see them. I'm amazed how much people don't do this, reading the newspaper and not just talking about what's the GDP, what's the inflation, but actually saying, going to these fundamental concepts of where do we see scarcity in this article, where do we see opportunity costs, what incentives do people have, what are the unintended consequences, and doing this over and over. Maybe even making computer games where you have to maybe guess what people's actions are going to be based off of incentives. There's a lot of higher order thinking and metacognition that can go into economic education that hasn't quite been done yet. So anyway, in conclusion, let's go back here to the picture that I have, and we can go over it as a whole. I'd say that to conclude about epistemology, I think that God has made a wonderful creation, which we can explore infinite diversity of the cosmos and of mankind, but it's united in objective truth, which is what really makes it interesting, so it makes it we can actually know about it. But our knowledge of the cosmos is extremely limited, and it's conditioned by our experiences too. So proper learning both challenges our assumptions and it builds on them. Thank you for watching.